Many of you guys grew up here. Nice. In the mid-60s, I'll start with my dad, who was, he was a rancher's grandson back in Oracle, Arizona, on the other side of the mountain, Mount Lemmon. And it took a while for him to resettle, and we ended up resettling when I was 2 to the Rocking Cay Ranch. You guys familiar with that? It's off a Spanish Trail. It was a working cattle ranch. Being that my dad was 5th generation, and in the cattle industry, he felt it important that he raise his family the same way. So although I was born in the early 60s, it was important for him somehow that we would grow up as though we were in the 1800s. And so we came out. Rocky Cay was the first place that we established ourselves. And then there were a couple other ranches in the area, and Vail was prominently ranch land. There were cattle everywhere. It was a rancher's land. And then, of course, we've grown since. From there, I was 11, 12, and La Posta Camada, which is on Colossal Cave. You been to Colossal Cave? Yeah, so the ranch that's there, my dad was there approximately 30 years, JJ? Yeah. And I was in high school at that point. We had purchased about 200 acres behind Colossal Cave, shared with family, that was just nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. Vail School, 120 kids in the entire district in '69. My class was the largest at 11 in 1st grade. We didn't have a kindergarten yet. So we bought our property, and we started with building a horse corral. Brought the horse. The second thing was to dig a well, which was by hand, with me in the bottom of the hole, digging out 1800s. I'm telling you, he had a sense of humor. So we got our water in, and we hit a spring. Do you guys know what witching is? When you witch for water, who knows what that is? You take 2 metal rods, and we don't know scientifically if this is proven, but it worked for us. So Dad goes out with his 2 rods, and when they cross, automatically, that's to be water below, and that's where you dig. So we dig our well 30 foot, it's not very deep, and we hit water that sustained us for almost the entire time we were there. We built our house off of the land, so after school, after waking up at 4:30, feeding all the animals, going to the bus stop in a Jeep, an old Jeep, that 45 Willys. It was a wartime Jeep. It's awesome. 4-wheel drive, it was awesome. So we'd get there. By the time we got to the bus, we were frozen solid. Get on the bus, an hour to get to Old Vail. You guys know where Old Vail is? Yeah. So we get to Old Vail, a full day, another hour and a half, because we're the last ones to get up. We are, I think, only a mile back to the valley, like this. And from there, after school, we would go and collect rocks out of the wash. There was a beautiful Agua Verde wash ran below us. And so we collect rocks, and we built our house off of the land. So we built it out of rocks, mixing cement by hand. Guys, it was 1800s. There was nothing 1900s about my beginning. But we worked hard, we learned values. Learned to love Vail. My son, then he started to appreciate it. So we built our house off of the land. I ended up moving to town, and later on decided Vail, I had to be back in Vail for my kids, which I brought back out as soon as I could. Vail's a great community. So let's see, I'm going to be scattered here. Vail, I started Vail, we didn't have a kindergarten, so 1st grade was in 69, 70 with 120 kids. My class maintained being the largest class in Vail history throughout. Graduating 8th grade, we had right about 24. in 8th grade, and that was the entire school district. And I have the yearbook I wanted to bring in. There was no finding it. We had 3 bus drivers. We had 1 maintenance, Virgil Smith. We had 1 secretary. We had 1 music teacher later on, which, no, Miss Langworthy. We had 1 music teacher. So it was just very small, very simple. And what was really nice with Vail is the school was actually the connection with the community. Parents, we had our school plays. Every year we'd have a Christmas play. We'd have different plays. The community would come in. It was such a small community that when you passed somebody on the road, you knew who they were. And if you didn't, it was because they were going to Colossal Cave, or they were just coming out for a quick drive. There was just nobody out here. So wherever you went, you'd pass everybody you knew, you waved. You knew everyone, the connection, we were all friends, we all took care of each other. We were there for each other because it was in the middle of nowhere back then. There was nothing. I think our closest neighbor was 3 miles. So if something happened, your neighbors were, who do you go to? Grocery shopping, that was about an hour drive to get to the store, so you got everything you could. We raised our own beef. Goat at one point, Dad wasn't a fan. And I guess what I'll do is wait for questions. Is there something more that you'd like me to go over before?
I think that's a really good intro. So do you guys have any questions so remember we want to stick to the theme of growing up in Vail and like school in Vail. Go ahead.
Well, through the other speakers we've heard, they've said that like the post office was like the pub of Vail. So, or the hub or whatever.
The Adobe?
Yeah. Did you ever
Was that the speaker that was here in 44? I'd love to meet him. When I was younger, that was owned by the Kellys, which owned the arena and all of that area in between the tracks. So for us, it was a feed store. And it was a place that we'd go and just talk to the Kellys until I just, come on, Dad, I want to go home. But my sister and I would walk home every day from Old Vail, not home, every day from Old Vail. And we'd walk to the old store, and they had an ice chest, and always gave my sister and I this cold sarsaparilla. So we look forward to going and visiting, and the Kellys were an amazing family. They're a huge part of the community. The post office, when I was little, was on the frontage road. You know where the steakhouse is? Vail Steakhouse? So just east of the steakhouse, there was a trailer with a facade that looked like an old home, and that's where we'd go. It was a small store. It was a little market, and we'd go in, and if we were really good, Dad, he'd let us get a Hostess cupcake. It was very simple, very simple. TV, we had a 13-inch black and white. We got 4 stations because we were down this valley. And we were only allowed that TV. Saturday morning, super cool special. We had all the cartoons, 8:30, out the door. Kids go outside. And to play, we didn't have a TV, we weren't hooked inside. We had fresh air. Our toys, plastic horses, a couple Barbies, we hit that wash and we were there all day long. It was just, we didn't have a lot in our imaginations. And really cool. But yeah, the post office was a feed store back in the day. And it was in great shape back then too. It was.
Can you explain what a feed store? These are city
Feed store,
kids.
yeah. It's where you go, they have hay, they have different feed for your animals. Hay, pellets. They didn't have a lot of supplies, but back then it was like the cereal aisle. There were like 5 different cereals back then. So it was very basic.
Okay, questions, guys?
Could you maybe go a little more in depth about school?
About the school?
Yeah.
The school, let's see. 1st grade? Start 1st grade? You want me to go to 8th grade?
You maybe could start with the name of the school, please?
Old Vail Middle School. And it was the only school out here. It was back in 69-70, it was 1st grade to 8th grade. And then 2 years later, we had our first kindergarten, which I was trying to get my cousin to come in. She was the 1st year kindergarten out here. Everybody participated in everything we did, 7th and 8th grade. If it was basketball season, we played basketball. If it was football season, we played football. The girls played flag, but everybody participated. Nobody was left out of a sport. You know, it was because we only had enough for a team. The class was 18. The girls were one team, the boys were one team, barely made up a team. Absenteeism, I think it was basically unheard of. We all came to school. I don't think I missed a day for 4 years, and we were snowed in for one day, so I couldn't make it out. What's that? We get snow, and where we were back far enough where it snowed, you couldn't get out. 8th grade graduation, it was a flood, so I threw down a plank and we walked to the car on the other side. Yeah, really different than what you guys have now. We had a play yard with the great big swing sets that are humongous, and if you flew off, you'd probably break your neck. But you guys are protected. The teachers, we didn't have the parapros, we just had the teachers. We didn't have after-school activities because our bus is strictly in and back home, so we didn't have the after-school activities, but we had the field trips within. Where else can we go? Yeah,
During recess, what did you guys do?
Recess, for the elementary, it was swings, it was kickball. We love kickball. PE was kickball, softball, football, basketball. Volleyball was big for the girls. So whatever sport you guys played, for the most part, we played. But we didn't get to sign in for it if you were in.
How long were your recesses?
You know, they're never long enough.
I know.
That I don't remember. I'm gonna assume probably a half an hour. I'm assuming because I was little. I don't remember. Yeah. But the entire school played together. Nobody was separated, but everybody took care of each other. You know, so it was. I don't remember a bully in the school. I don't remember being, maybe picked on, but we're friends now.
What kind of trouble did you get into?
Back then, it was legal to paddle.
What?
It was not acceptable to sass your teacher. It was not acceptable to argue with an adult. Those were not acceptable behaviors. I've raised my children. I have kids here a little older than you. Where we let them express themselves. But back then, it was not acceptable. You spoke, but you always spoke with respect. The room was quiet. You came in, it wasn't chaos because, but they could paddle. And, yeah, I got one. I did. I think I was the only girl in the whole history of Vail. And I'm not proud of it, don't go there. In 7th grade, the 8th grade above decided that they were going to donate to the principal, Mr. Wells, who was 7 foot tall, a paddle with holes in it.
Oh.
For us. Nobody got to get that one. So I think that we were all really good that next year. So yeah, there were paddlings. That went out not too long after.
You guys know what that means?
Yeah, that's why you did some
Okay.
Something like you need to get paddled.
Yeah.
like they do in college. That is like.
Is it worse than the belt?
That's not how it works.
My dad was an
And speaker
avid,
courtesy.
believer in the belt. But it wasn't done to physically harm. It was to get your attention. Yeah, they both hurt, and you just don't want to be there. It was just, the children walked a particular line. And yeah, those were used punishments. They were. And it wasn't looked down at, it was what it was. I'm not commending it. My daughter, we just took ice cream today.
Can you describe your like best friend, Indra?
Oh, my best friends. We're still friends. Love Facebook. We're still friends. We connected the groups probably like your school does now, where you have this group, you have this group, right? You have this group. But when you only have, 11 kids, I think we just kind of all randomly played. It wasn't up until middle school, a little more the social, changed a little bit, that we had this category. We had this category, which I was in, that you have this category. It was not allowed to be mean, and it was dealt with. So, yeah, we still had that kind of unfortunate structure, but, it's part of, I suppose, the social.
What were the categories? Did you guys have names? for
Yeah,
them?
no, we didn't. This category, we had a doctor and a nurse, their family. It was more prominent money. And then you had the guys over here that were, they just, I don't know, what do you call your groups here? Is it the same? Is there a name for them? You just know they're there? Yeah, I would say just like less socially,
Shy?
maybe shy. Yeah. I mean, everybody, good people. Just, maybe a little clumsier over here. Yeah. We were in the middle and there were only 3 of us. But we,
Let her finish her story and then.
if you were in the middle, when this group kicked somebody out or didn't like them that day, they came to us. Same here. When they were having a bad day with their friends, they came to us. We took care of them. Everybody was welcome in the middle group. So it was a great group. Yeah.
These guys had questions and they
Oh,
were
I'm
patiently.
sorry.
Hey, hold on. Remember we raise our hands. These guys were waiting patiently.
Did you ever get a job, and what age, where you work?
Yeah, I did. I had a job at Colossal Cave cleaning the house at 12, and I rode my horse up and cleaned the house for minor houses. Yeah. That was my first job, and then at 12 I had babysitting jobs. And then when the fair came around, my parents would let me in high school work at the fair, at the food stand, not inside the carnival, but outside. That was it. Otherwise, there was no allowances. You live in the house, you're part of it. You get to eat.
Do you remember what time your school started and ended?
It started at 8. It was after 8. 8:40 maybe. And it ended at 3:20ish. It's been a long time ago, guys. Am I missing hands? I don't know.
No, and Joshua would have one.
How prominent was music or religion when you were growing up?
For me, it wasn't in my house at that point. We had the Rita, the church in Rita, or the Rita Catholic Church in between the tracks. Yeah, and the buildings that are there behind are actually the buildings that they were my 7th and 8th grade classrooms. They had moved to the church area. So that would have been the only church in the area. If you were not Catholic, I'm not quite sure where you would have gone. That was the only church in the area. And what was the other?
Music.
Music. It was a ranching community. Music was enjoyed and we all had to participate. And I think we all enjoyed it. But it wasn't offered until 5th grade. Yeah.
How many horses did you own?
I've had 7 at one time. But my daughter, who is 16, almost 17, with her papa, my dad being a rancher, a lot of roundups up in the rincons, and yeah, horses were tools. Yeah, strictly tools.
Wow, when did you get your first car and how did you get the money for it?
My first car was in high school. I was a grandma's girl, so she bought me a Baja Bug, which was a Volkswagen kind of, yeah. And then, we got a truck as soon as we can. But that was a pretty cool little car.
Maya?
For me, when
When you were growing up, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I don't think I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to be when I grew up. When I was growing up, you were connected so strong to your family. After school, we'd shoe horses. After school, we'd build our house. After school, we worked together. My dad always worked for himself, so we worked together as a family after school. And I didn't really process. My grandmother was a nurse, so probably, I guess, by 3rd grade, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. And just kind of stuck with the nursing. I actually decided to wait until I had 2 small children to go to nursing, to take some college. But yeah.
What high school did you go to?
Santa Rita. Yeah, it was the one offered in '77 with transportation. I think you had the choice of Benson, Patagonia. Yeah.
What's one invention that we have now that you wish you had back then?
Telephones. We didn't have a phone. It was going to be $20,000 to take a phone, to get the phone lines back into the valley that we grew up in. We had a car phone that was so expensive at the time for us. It was emergency only. And then I believe we used CDs, which is, the truck driver's CD. That was free, so we could get out a little bit. I would say phones, because if something would have happened back there, we had no communication. On the other hand, I think that takes a lot of the personal stuff. Everybody's on phones now. I see it, and I'm like, that part I wouldn't want. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, was the communication. I didn't see some of the TV shows that I really thought were cool. I Dream of Gino, all those shows that had been out forever. We didn't have those stations, so when I got to see a rerun, they were brand new. But inventions, that would be, I'm thinking the phone.
What's the favorite memory school?
From high school? Oh, I loved high school. It was such a social realm because it was so small in Vail, and by the time you get to 8 and you move into high school, I was scared to death because Vail was so small. There were 120 kids, or 123 kids possibly, in Vail. So you're coming from this really small school into this humongous school. And I think there was a stabbing this summer before I started. That intensified the anxiety that I had. But once I got in, it was amazing. The social part of it, I think the funniest, and we just actually laughed about this on Facebook because I'm still friends with most of my friends that I've connected back with, was when they took my Baja Bug and they pushed it on the grass. And the security guards, of course, they were sweethearts, and they laughed. And Marilyn, what's your car doing on the grass? I don't know, I didn't do it. That's probably, but I'd say the social part, the social with your friends. I had great teachers. The whole thing was just good.
I'm more familiar with how nursing is now. How was nursing back then?
I got all the way into the internship, and I had to quit, sadly, because we have 2 small kids. With nursing, what happens is you get to an internship and you have to work for free for a long time. So I couldn't work for free and raise children. So I had to just bail and just take the credits that I had.
What the differences back then compared to now?
Schooling for nursing?
Just in general, schooling or what it was actually about.
I didn't really get into the field, so it'd be hard to really answer it. I think the neatest thing for me as a kid is watching my grandmother in that little white nursing cap and her little white dress, and being so proud to go into the field. For me, I just didn't get that far. I think it was like Vail. It was smaller here, and it was just more personalized. People took more time with each patient. And there's a lot of good nurses out there, but our time is, we don't have enough nurses for our patients.
Did you have running water at your house?
Did we? Yeah, we did. My dad was really smart. He could do a lot of, there was really nothing he couldn't do. So yeah, we got the water in, we had water, we had electricity, yeah, we had all those things. It was how we got started that was, yeah, it was old school.
Someone else, I forgot.
Can I clarify that question about the water? Where did you get the water again?
We dug our own well.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad built a drilling rig instead of paying, tens of thousands for to have somebody come out and do it. So we dug the well by hand and run the pipes and, yeah. And my dad's dad was a contractor, so my dad had learned to build and, to do all the building the house. We built our house basically, it was my mom, my dad, myself, and my little sister who wasn't a big help. She was pretty fancy.
Can you explain how you built your house? Like what materials you used
Rocks.
and how you got
After
them?
school, we would get rocks, and we would mix cement by hand, and we would build. And then back then, they put the power line up through the bottom of the ring guns. And I found out years later, my dad would go up, and he would take those electric lines they put around the wooden table. They look like tables. They're like big reels, big spools. And he would bust them apart, and that's the lumber that he used for the rest of the house. And then Rancho del Lago, they had built that beautiful resort for Motorola back in the early 1900s?
1930s.
1930. And so the McGuires that ran the water company there at the time we were good friends with, when they tore it all down, he said, come on in and get what you want. So a lot of it was built from there. We've got handles, door handles, just whatever we could, and we built the house with that. So there's a lot of history in the house.
Does it still stand today?
It is still standing, and my dad actually had passed away in June, so we are taking ashes and dropping them there this Sunday.
Where is it?
It's at the base of the rincons. So if you look at the peak and come down, it's in Agua Verde. Yeah, it's beautiful. We had running water almost year round.
So what is the Agua Verde? I was gonna say, maybe they don't know what that is.
Do you know where the Rincon Mountains are?
No.
Have you seen the castle?
Castle now?
Yeah, it was behind the castle. In fact, Dwayne and Jenny on the castle would come down and they'd help us with some of the building. And then we'd go up there, so my sister and I would run around the castle and we knew where all the secret hiding places were. And had so we know how to hide out in there.
Apart from your house and utilities, what was the most expensive thing that your family owned?
I would say land. Yeah.
How much land?
We had 40 acres and then family. It was 200 among family, but yeah, it was 40, which was it was beautiful. And you felt like it was a lot more because there was nobody around. It was gorgeous. Yeah, we had running water sometimes year round. We'd have the little minnows that would come in after a while. It was amazing.
When you got hurt or like when you got like cuts or something, did you always go to your grandma? Like I go to something happens to me, I always go to my grandma. And stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't. This here, this is a scar. I've got a picture from it when we were on the Rocking K. This was probably the only time that I had gotten stitches. But other than that, Dad and I were fencing this last year, and barbed wire rips my arm open, and I put water on it, and all I could find was toilet paper and Scotch tape, and you get back to work. So yeah, not a lot of babying like that. Not that it's babying, but that's how, you'll live, you're good, get back out there. Yeah, really tough.
Did you go to college right after high school?
No, I actually waited until I was I think it was 28 when I started.
What did you do in the time you didn't go to college?
I drove a truck. I run heavy equipment. And I started a daycare for a little while.
During Christmas, would you guys go out and cut your own trees down and stuff?
No, we didn't. There weren't trees out there. We always had one. I have to assume they just went and bought one. Yeah. And then we'd go New Year's Eve and we'd have a big bonfire with all the neighbors. And we'd throw the tree in there and have our firecrackers. And back then nobody was around, so we'd have our gun. It was totally different. You guys missed out on such a great time.
What were some traditions you had with your family growing up?
New Year's Eve, we would get together at the Vail Steakhouse and have a little dance. That was something that we look forward to. As far as tradition, I don't think we were, I mean, we had Thanksgiving, we had our holidays. I didn't feel we were real traditional. Maybe my grandmother, she owned a nursing home, so we would go in and we would have, there would be a pile of toys taller than me, and we had Santa Claus, and he would come, and that was probably, but that was more like my cousins, but for my initial family out here, we just did your basic holidays.
When you were younger, did you expect like this time to have like better inventions, like flying cars or something? Like when I like
Cars flying around.
Yeah, when I was younger, I thought like later in the years that there's gonna be so many like big inventions.
You might still see that in your day. I'll stay on the ground.
Okay, if it's too personal, I understand that. Did you ever have a boyfriend in high school? Middle school?
I did. His name was Glenn Butler. And I was a sophomore at the end of my sophomore year, and I thought he was just so cute. And he was the only one that could find me behind 4 locked gates in the middle of nowhere. So I thought, well, you know what? If he can find me, I better just, stick with him. And he was, yeah. So Glenn, we were together for probably almost a couple of years. Yeah.
What was your favorite subject in school?
PE. History in the 6th grade really got my attention. I used to go to the library and get every history book I could and just read it. In high school, I really enjoyed Spanish. I thought I already knew enough English, so I got Spanish, and then I missed out on all the stuff that you really need to know for English.
Okay, so like I know like with my mom and stuff, her parents were really religious, and they wouldn't let her wear like makeup or any special clothes. So how old were you if you started wearing makeup?
My dad was so strict with that. We couldn't even experiment with it. It was not going to happen. So by the time we were 16 and we looked like clowns. My sister and I both looked like clowns, and we went to school looking like clowns. Because we tried to put it all on at one time. But yeah, we couldn't play with that kind of stuff. No polishing nails, no, that didn't happen. Dad was gonna make sure we stayed little for a long time, and my mom too, and we did.
How many siblings did you have?
One sister, and then we had one cousin, so there were 3 of us, and 3 was always a crowd because it was only 2 at a time that would get along, so somebody was always the outcast. Every once in a while, the 3 of us would get in there, but that was our only, we were summer breaks, it was the 3 of us, that was it.
So I know like you guys played outside, so like what was your favorite game you played?
Volleyball was my favorite, I love volleyball. And kickball, I was pretty good at kickball, but volleyball was my favorite.
Did you like for the summer breaks? Did you travel? Did you ever travel anywhere besides Arizona?
We did. The rancher that ranched La Costa Comata before Dad started there, Troy Blue, he moved to Colorado. So we did go up and see him. And in the summers, we would travel for a month with my grandparents in their motorhome through the States. Yeah, got to see a lot of beautiful places.
What was your favorite food that your parents made when you were
Tacos. My mom can make the best tacos. Oh my goodness. She grew up over off of where they were more prominently Hispanic. And she bragged on their tacos, and she learned how to make them really good.
Okay, so was your mom like good at cooking?
We had $20 a week for groceries, and she was feeding 4 of us. We were always healthy. We were never sick, but we did a lot of beans, potatoes, pork, chicken. She knew certain meals, and that's pretty much what we just kind of, yeah. Food was just something, you didn't live to eat, you ate to live. And we were all totally content with what she ate. A lot of fried potatoes and things are just, probably not so much.
So do you have any like recipes?
From then, Tacos. Tacos, Mexican food. Yeah, love Mexican food. I'm actually the minority in my family.
Did you ever get sad when you had to slaughter a cow?
It was a way of life, and a life is a life, you know. So we'd get out there, and I'd get out there at 4:30 in the morning, it'd be dark, and bottle feed calves until they were old enough, and they'd give me a bull ride or whatever, you know. It was like, Dad. And I'd come home and it'd be hanging from the tree, and that was what we ate. So yeah, there was some, but you knew it was going to happen, so you didn't name them and you didn't get connected to them. But yeah, my daughter does different animals with 4-H, and I even cried when her pig went. You know, yeah, they're living things.
Was there any like lakes around where you lived, or like?
Dad dug out a hole, or a big hole for a pond, so when it would run, it would fill. And it didn't fill a lot, but we had running water so much of the time that we just play in water a lot. But we had a holding tank, which is a big tank that you hold water in, and they're all through the ranches. So you have the windmills, and it pumps water into these big holding tanks. And that's what your, you know, it's holding the water. So your cattle have water, and then that goes into the little, and this thing was as big as the room, and we'd skate in it in the summer, or I'm sorry, in the winter, and in the summer we'd swim in it. Up this side, great swimming pool.
What was one of the big innovations that came out when you were little?
Microwave ovens. No, you know what, I didn't have to, I mean, they were already out. We just didn't have those luxuries. I would have to really think about that.
Microwave ovens.
Was it?
Okay, so wait, just kidding.
So like, I remember as a, like, I'm still a kid, but I used to make forks all the time, like outside. And I imagine you guys like make forks and like.
Oh my gosh, we had the best forks. And the guy that bought our property, Randy, he's a teacher at a Montessori school. He's retired now. But he saved it. We had our old school desk in there, and it was in a cat cloth. You know what that is? They're really, yeah. We had the most amazing forks, definitely.
Like you'd spend like a whole day.
All day long. Yep, building boxes. We'd build stuff. Oh yeah, my sister and I, we were good.
Okay, I remember now. So you said that there was like only a couple neighbors like so close to you. So did you have any friends from like school spend the night, or did vice versa?
Carrie spent the night, and I was so proud to have a friend come out. We put a tent up, and this is a rich girl, very prompt. Put up a tent, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and here come the coyotes and all the sounds of all the animals, and we ended up in the house, and she never came back out. We were still friends forever, but yeah, scared the jeepers right there.
Okay, what was your favorite memory about Vail?
About Vail? There's so many, but I think just if I was to just loop Vail all up in a little teeny bubble, it would just be the connection that we had as a community. It was just personal. You know, you knew everybody had your back, and even if you weren't friends, you didn't, they still had your back because, you know, yeah, I think it was the connection that we had. To be a part of it's pretty amazing.
Was there any, I mean, this is a connection, I'm pretty sure you're gonna happen, but was there any like major crime or anything?
The only one I remember was Steve Tolan, back in the mid-70s. He drank too much, and he went into the Vail Steakhouse and shot, I don't think it was inside, but he fired off some rounds and got in a little trouble, but I don't remember any. There were drugs being brought in and out, but those were not from the Vail community members. So Vail was super safe as far as I knew. It wasn't probably until, you know, when you just have a bigger community and people from the outside coming in to kind of spoil that for us. But a lot of awesome people. But you know, when you have more people, you just bring in more.
Do you still feel that Vail have like the connection that you have in your
I do. As big as it is, I own a group home daycare. And I actually have children come in from students when I worked in Vail that would come in, and so I've got their babies. But you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, you're such and such, and the connection is there. Yeah, I love it.
Maybe one or two more questions. We'll run out of time.
Do you have any, like, souvenirs, as you call them, from when you were little that you still have, like, today?
Yeah, I save everything. And then Dad and I, we love to go and look for artifacts. So I've got just a pile of cowboy artifacts here from a cowboy camp we found. I've got, I save everything. It's just, it's the memories. And one day somebody's gonna look and go, what the heck is she saying?
Okay, so this is kind of like a weird question, but did your mom like go to a hospital to give birth, or like did she like do a home birth?
Yeah.
We got in the stagecoach, and it took us 5 hours to get to Tucson. I had to do the stagecoach.
Her dad had to be a stagecoach.
I was born in Tucson at St. Joe's. We actually lived in town until I was 2. Yeah, we didn't move out until I was 2. That stagecoach was a rough ride.
Your dad did have a stagecoach.
He
He
did?
did. He built a stagecoach that duplicated the Wells Fargo.
Well, or the San Antonio to San Diego, because your great grandfather was a stage driver back in 1858.
Yeah, and my dad's grandfather drove the last coach from Oracle to Tucson. But yeah, we go back in those generations. The COD Ranch is where it started. That was my great-great-great-grandfather, great-great, two back, yeah, that started that.
Okay, last one.
I'm actually going to the studio recording for this band.
So they have a lot of articles, and if you look up Frank Dailey, there's a lot of articles on the family history of the Daileys.
Yeah, I'm going over to the COD ranch for a retreat at 4 UIS.
It's beautiful out there. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, I was there last year.
Yeah?
All right, I think, you know what, guys, I forgot to do at the beginning